Sarbananda Sonowal, Honorable Minister of Ports, Shipping, Waterways and Ministers for Ayush, Government of India. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining, even though you are traveling. It is really indeed a privilege to have you with us. Dr. Himanta Biswas Sarma, Honorable Chief Minister of Assam. Dr. Sanjeev Ranjan, Secretary, Ministry of Ports, Shipping, Waterways, Government of India. Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, Additional Secretary, Minister of Ports, Shipping, Waterways and Government of India. Joint Secretaries from the Ministry, Port Chairman, Senior Government Officials from the government, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, a very good morning and a warm welcome to this Developing Ports for the Future, New India at 75, Ports, Infrastructure and Logistics Conclave. It is part of the 75 years of India, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav series that FICCI is doing. And it is our proud privilege to host the Honorable Minister's first formal interaction with industry associations in his new role as Minister for Ports, Shipping, Waterways and Ayush. We are most delighted to welcome you, Sri Sarbananda Sonowal ji. We have a long-standing relationship with you, and we thank you very much for giving us this opportunity, and we are indeed very grateful to you. Sir, we have been actively involved with various initiatives led by the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Just a few months ago, under the leadership of the previous minister and the secretary and Mr. Bandyopadhyay, we partnered the ministry for the Maritime India Summit. We had 30 sessions with 100 countries. 10 international ministers participated, including 11 ministers and chief ministers from India. And we had over 100 plus global CEOs, many of them who are represented in this call today. Before I invite Mr. B.V.J.K. Sharma for his formal welcome remarks, I would like to acknowledge the presence of key dignitaries from public and private organizations on the screen. We have Mr. T.K. Ramachandran, Chairman, VO Chidambara Port Trust. We have Mr. Vineet Kumar, Chairman, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Port Trust. We have Mr. Rajiv Jalota, Chairman, Mumbai Port Trust. We have Mr. K. Ramanna Mohan Rao, Chairman, Visakhapatnam Port Trust. We have Mr. Sunil Paliwal, Chairman, Kamarajar Ports Limited, and Dr. M. Beena, Chairman, Cochin Port Trust. From industry, and I don't know whether he's joining from India or Dubai, we have Mr. Rizwan Somar, CEO and MD, Indian Subcontinent of DP World. We had actually the Sultan join us for the inaugural of the Maritime India Summit, but we had a technical problem, so we could not hear him. But anyway, thank you for being with us. We have Mr. Krishna B. Kotak, Chairman, JM Bakshi Group, Mr. Dhruv K. Kotak, MD, JM Bakshi Group, Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, CEO and MD, SR Ports Limited, and Mr. Arun Maheshwari, Joint MD and CEO of JSW Group, and Mr. Anil Devli, CEO, Indian National Ship Owners Association. With this, I would now like to invite Captain B.V.J.K. Sharma, Chairman, Shipping FICCI Committee on Transport, Infrastructure and Director Ports, CEO's Office, Adani Ports and SEZ, to please deliver the formal welcome address and take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. Sri Sarbananda Sonowal ji, our Honorable Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, and Minister of Ayush, Government of India. Dr. Sanjeev Ranjan, Secretary, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India. Dr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India. All our port chairmen, ably introduced by Dilip and acknowledging their presence, and senior government officials from the Government of India, my colleagues, distinguished speakers, and honorable delegates. Once again, good morning. And it's my proud privilege to welcome Sri Sarbananda Sonowal ji to this Developing Ports for Future New India 75. And then this particular conclave about ports, infrastructure and logistics. Sir, thank you for taking out time in the midst of your busy schedule. And indeed, we are extremely grateful, sir. And I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your induction in the Council of Ministers. and for assuming charge as Minister of Port, Shipping and Waterways and Ayush. My colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, India's maritime sector forges new opportunities and is on the path of continual growth. The government has launched Maritime India Vision 2030, MIV 2030, with an objective of propelling India to the forefront of global maritime sector in the next decade. The recently passed Inland Vessel Act 2021 also ushers a new era in the inland water transport sector, sir. Sir, we are confident that under your dynamic leadership, waterways transport is all set for a revolution and will certainly has the potential to bring down the logistic cost. A lot of digital efforts have been taken by the respective ministries, and this pandemic has really taught us how to get more innovative about digital sector, and we all have come ahead a long way in using the digital medium as much as possible. And in this regard, even inland waterways have taken a lot of steps to connect the vessel owner, cargo owners through a scheme called Focal. We also have certain models in Europe, uh, like a Marco Polo or other mediums where we can nudge our mode of transport towards water. So this year, it's as FICCI celebrates its 95th year of inception. We as industry body and our industry members are very keen to partner, associate with government to take the vision of India 75 forward, sir. And coming to today's conclave, I would also like to extend a warm welcome to all the eminent speakers from the government, international organizations, financial institutions, and private sector. The conclave will essentially focus on some of the upcoming trends and technologies that have the potential to significantly energize the sector. We aim to create an active platform for exchange of ideas, experiences, and best practices amongst the policymaker and the industry members. I'm confident that there would be some thought-provoking and engaging discussion during the various sessions of the conclave today. We would encourage the delegates to participate in productive and healthy discussions. We hope to gain insights, sir, and get directions and some concrete outcomes from the deliberations. FICCI will make notes of the key takeaways from this conclave and present it to the ministry for review. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our partners without whom today's conclave would not have been possible. Especially, I thank DP World, Cisco, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Port Trust, SR Group, and Visakhapatnam Port Trust for supporting this initiative. Sir, the audience is all ears for you. The industry is looking forward to your vision for the Indian maritime sector. Everyone is indeed very eagerly awaiting to hear from you, sir. Once again, a warm welcome, sir, and I wish the conclave every success. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Sharma. Briefly, before the Honorable Minister, would I request Mr. Rizwan Sonar, the CEO and MD of the Indian subcontinent of DP World, to set the industry context. Rizwan, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chanoy. Much appreciated. Honorable Minister Shri Sarbananda Sonowalji, respected Secretary of Ports and Shipping, Chairman of Major Port Trust, distinguished members of the government, my colleagues and dear friends, good morning to you all. I thank FICCI for organizing this conclave on Indian ports and logistics, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share my views on what it takes for us to develop the ports of the future today. The importance of marine ports in India's trade growth is evident from the fact that they handle 95% of India's trade by volume and 70% by value. Developing world-class ports is perhaps the single most important contribution to support the future growth of India's trade. India's ambition of becoming a $5 trillion economy by 2030, backed by initiatives such as Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, can only be achieved if India's ports are able to keep pace with and capture the future value of global trade. India's ports successfully demonstrated their resilience during the peak of COVID-19 pandemic by continuing operations under some of the most challenging situations in recent times. By keeping the trade going, India's ports significantly minimized the impact of the pandemic on our economy. The support provided by the central and the state governments during the pandemic was crucial for the ports to continue operating, I have to acknowledge. India's current share of global exports is about 1.5%. This is according to a report by HSBC. India has the potential to become the 5th largest global exporter with a 4.5% share of the global exports by value. We are well on our way to achieve the target set by the Honorable Prime Minister of $400 billion this financial year. Approximately 1/3 of this target is already achieved in the first quarter. However, the cost of logistics has a direct bearing on export competitiveness in the global markets. It is estimated that a 10% reduction in logistics cost can increase India's exports by almost 5 to 8%. And by offering world-class efficient services to trade, improving the ease of doing business, and thereby reducing the cost of logistics, our ports can actually help make exports much more competitive in the global markets. So what does it take to really create the ports of future? 3 key aspects, according to me. One is to create future-ready port infrastructure. Second, use of technology as an enabler of faster, reliable, and more efficient services. Third, a robust policy and a regulatory environment that encourages private participation. Now, when we look at port infrastructure of the future, we need to acknowledge that the global maritime trade sector is witnessing a consistent increase in vessel sizes across the world. This is in a bid to harness economies of scale. As vessel sizes increase, the port capacities, equipment, storage yards, berths, and drafts need to be ramped up to handle much larger vessels. The largest container vessels now compete very closely with the sizes of crude and bulk carriers and need drafts upwards of 16 meters, and more of them are actually expected to be commissioned in the coming years. Very few Indian ports have the capability to handle such vessels due to landside and draft constraints. It is therefore crucial that the existing ports are upgraded in terms of depths and their equipment, while the ports of the future are built keeping in mind this particular trend, which is about deeper drafts and the equipment that it takes to actually create that efficiency in terms of throughput. In addition, it is equally important to scale up the capacity of evacuation infrastructure in the form of roads and railways to handle the throughput moving through the future ports. The projects that were identified under the National Perspective Plan of the Sagarmala program and the dedicated freight corridors need to be expedited to make sure that India captures the growth of future trade. To achieve optimum utilization of port and evacuation infrastructure, we need to look at technology as a way to operating efficiency, safety, and productivity. Technologies such as Internet of Things can increase the level of automation and thus provide increased turnaround speeds of vessels as well as evacuation on the speed of cargo. For example, the use of high bay storage systems is an example of that. It can effectively triple the yard capacity by replacing the conventional container tracking with a rack system that allows direct access to any box at any location in the yard. Similarly, use of artificial intelligence through video analytics combined with long-range drones can easily amplify the reach and penetration for safety and security teams. Likewise, digitization of logistics and the supply chain can directly help make ports the hub for all logistics services through digital platforms that can offer a multitude of products and services that are suited to the needs of the industry. The government of India is already working on these lines, and as industry, we need to provide our complete support to these initiatives in order to boost trade and economic activity. As an example, Niti Aayog's ULIP project will revolutionize the logistics sector in India by making data available to users and industries who can create innovative solutions and offer them digitally. The project should be incentivized and encouraged by providing access to data with due importance to data security and privacy protocols. DP World is very proud to be associated with the Niti Aayog in this project. We're working on use cases that can be converted into digital solutions to help trade, especially make India's exports globally competitive. Technology and infrastructure need the support of a robust regulatory and policy environment. There are several issues that need clarity and direction of resolution through policy. One of the major roadblocks for existing port concessionaires is the lack of freedom to set tariffs and the variation in the tariff structures across different concession agreements. While the Major Port Authority Act of 2021 provides a freedom to new concessionaires to set tariffs, there is a need to extend the same autonomy to existing terminal operators under the PPP concessions and create a level playing field which will benefit the trade. The model concession agreement should also provide for flexibility to review the provisions of the agreements and update them in light of the prevalent economic environment. There is also a need for a unified view and oversight on the development of infrastructure. It is therefore recommended that the National Perspective Plan of Sagarmala and the National Master Plan, which is being developed by the Ministry of Commerce, they be aligned and complement each other to achieve the larger objective of creating world-class ports at strategic locations. To just summarize the three key points to create the future ports today: creating future-ready port infrastructure, use of technology as an enabler of faster, reliable, and more efficient services, and third, a robust policy and regulatory environment that encourages private participation. I thank you very much for this opportunity to share my views.
Thank you, Mr. Rizwan Samar, for those 3 points here. We are privileged to have with us Secretary from the Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India, Dr. Sanjeev Ranjan. May I now invite him to make his special address. Dr. Ranjan, over to you, sir.
Honorable Minister, Port, Shipping and Waterways, Shri Sarvanand Sonowalji, my colleagues from the Ministry, Chairman of the Ports, my friends from FICCI, my colleagues from the Maritime fraternity. At the outset, I'd like to thank you all for joining in this session and helping us in our efforts for developing world-class ports for the future. My warm greetings to all of you. As you are aware, in consultation with all of you, all the stakeholders, the ministry has come out with the Maritime India Vision 2030, where in consultation with the industry leaders, in consultation with the other stakeholders, we have already identified the important initiatives on which we need to be working in the next few years. More than 150 such initiatives have been identified. The action plan has been drawn up, and all these things are in the public domain. While the initiatives tend to address the concerns which were just mentioned, I'd like to give you an update with regard to the developments which have taken place in the last few months. The regulatory and policy framework, the changes that need to be brought about, the ministry has taken a comprehensive view and has embarked upon making the requisite changes in the legislative framework to make it more industry friendly, to reduce the compliance burden, and to promote the ease of doing business. As you are aware, the Major Port Authorities Act has already been passed by the Parliament, and we have a clear action plan for implementing the same and to make sure all our major ports transition to a landlord model. The berths, some of which need modernization, need capacity augmentation, have been identified for developing them under PPP model, and a comprehensive list of 27 such projects have already been identified for developing them as part of the asset monetization program, which was released by the Honorable Finance Minister just a few days back. The Maritime Aids Navigation Bill was also passed by the Parliament in the last monsoon session, which replaces the age-old Lighthouse Act of 1927. This will result in promoting the requisite safety parameters that we are concerned about, the new age vessel tracking system, and the related regulatory changes that are required for that would all come into place because of the new enactment that has just happened last month. The Inland Vessel Bill, which was of 1917, was introduced by the Honorable Minister in the monsoon session, has also been passed by the Parliament in the monsoon session itself. This will bring about a paradigm change in the legislative framework we have for the inland vessel sector, which was otherwise fragmented, with an inland vessel requiring registration, classification, and other requirements to be obtained from state to state. Now we have an enactment which makes it possible for the same vessel to be registered at one place and be able to do business on all our 111 waterways and the other waterways we have spread across all the states. I'm sure this is going to give a big boost to inland water transport sector and the multimodal shift which we have been long aspiring for. Yesterday itself, the Honorable Minister at Guwahati has got the MOU between the Cochin shipyard and the inland waterways going. Hopefully, with the waterways in place, with the work being done by the Inland Waterways Authority of India, the new Inland Vessel Bill, and the other facilities that are being created under the Mahabahu Brahmaputra, we should be able to get the right kind of ecosystem so that the inland waterways find their place under the sun as far as the eastern part of the country is concerned. In addition to the 3 legislative changes which I just mentioned, the ministry is also working on the new coastal shipping bill, the merchant shipping bill, and the Indian ports bill. These are at the consultative stage, and the industry's views are welcome to ensure that they become legislations for the future. They are future ready and meet the needs of the ports of the future that we are talking about. The other big changes in terms of policy, which was mentioned, is the redoing of the model concession agreement. We are in the process of revising it after getting your inputs, and hopefully we will have a more industry friendly major concession agreement in place in the next few months, which will ensure that the pipeline of projects that we have on offer under PPP would be able to meet the industry expectations. While we are creating the regulatory framework, the policy framework, which the industry requires, with the help of all my friends here, the capacity of Indian ports has increased by about 66% in the last 7 years. Now we have a capacity of more than 2,500 million metric tons per annum, which is more than double the kind of EXIM cargo that we handle. But as was mentioned, the problem is that many of these berths can't take the larger vessels, which are becoming the order of the day. They don't have the requisite equipment to be able to ensure that the throughput is fast and efficiently done. And therefore, some of these age-old berths need to be modernized, need to be upgraded. And our ports have identified that, and they form part of the national infrastructure pipeline. They form part of the national asset monetization pipeline. And with the new legislative framework, the new MCA, hopefully the private sector would be able to contribute in modernizing these terminals, modernizing these berths, and make them future ready, help make our ports for the future. While the traffic, the general traffic at the ports has increased by about 25% in the last 7 years, the container handling has gone up from about 10 million TEUs to 17.5 million TEUs in the last 7 years. The growth has been much more, of the order of 66%. The general traffic only increasing by about 25%. And the projections are in the Maritime India vision that the container traffic is going to further double in the next 10 years, which means that our ability to handle containers at our ports, the ability to handle the ships which bring these containers at our ports, needs to be substantially augmented. And these berths which go on offer, I hope, will now be modernized and recalibrated to be able to meet the challenges which now come in, with much of the exim cargo getting containerized, getting palletized, the throughput being automated, the requisite IT systems that go along to make the end-to-end tracking possible are things on which we have to work together. They are all part of the vision. Our ports have their own action plans on this. I will like to share some of the salient features of the action plan that we have planned for this year and the coming years. With that information, with that input, hopefully the industry should be able to plan its activities, and I hope they'll come forward and bid for some of the major projects which are already on offer. For example, the Paradeep Western Dock project is one major initiative to get a deep draft facility created on the eastern front, is already on offer. Similarly, the JNPT has come out with the bid proposal for the JNPT container terminal. Now, many such projects will come in one after the other, and if we are able to develop them the way we have talked about, I am sure much of the capacity requirements that we require in terms of modernizing them, make them future ready, we should be in a position to do it. The challenges, as was mentioned, is to get these bigger vessels at our ports. The transshipment, the mainline vessels do their transshipment in our immediate neighborhood rather than at our ports, which is also part of the vision that we ensure that the transshipment happens on our shores, for which we expect the Cochin port to be able to do the requisite kind of infrastructure enhancement so that we are able to get more of these mainline vessels at Cochin. The Vizhinjam port is under development. Hopefully, when that gets commissioned, we should be able to attract the transshipment traffic. On the eastern port, on the eastern front, we have some of our ports which are working actively on this. The recent crisis which the industry, the entire exim trade in India has been highlighting is that of shortage of container capacity. And I think on this, we as the maritime industry need to find a solution. Our major ports have gone ahead and had offered concessions beyond their normal tariffs for these mainline vessels to come to their ports. The congestion at Colombo, the congestion at Singapore, which leads to extra delays, has resulted in shortage of containers, has resulted in extra cost for our exim trade. And if the very same vessels can call on our ports, we should be able to get the containers moving faster. I'm happy that some shipping lines have taken the call, and 3 or 4 of our ports would hopefully get more such scheduled calls, which will help the transshipment happening at our ports, and this would go a long way in reducing the cost which our exim trade has to bear. But I think we have to make sure that this becomes a permanent feature, and whatever that is required to be done, we, along with the industry, would have to work together to make sure that 100% transshipment that is done now at other places happens at our ports, for which we have to be able to create the right ecosystem. And this can best be done in partnership with my friends who have joined here, in partnership with the shipping lines. And I'm sure we collectively should be able to make it happen as part of the new vision that we have for having world-class ports on our shores. In order to make them efficient, in order to promote ease of doing business, we have the National Logistics Portal Marine, on which our Indian Port Association is already working. The idea is to make it an end-to-end solution. The earlier PCS 1X, the Port Community System 1X, catered to the needs of the port ecosystem. Now with increasing containerization, where the container shifts from one mode to another, from road to rail and then to the ship, without any kind of a glitch, there is a need to upgrade the IT system, for which the IPA is already working, and they are working in active partnership with the ULIP team of the Niti Aayog. And the Indian Port Chairman is part of this conference here. He'll be able to further give you an update on the kind of API-driven protocols which they are trying to develop, so that the various stakeholders, the various IT systems which our stakeholders have, should be able to seamlessly exchange the documents, seamlessly exchange the clearances, be it that of customs, be it that of the port authorities, so that starting from the road operators to the railway terminal operators to our ports, the documentation becomes paperless, the clearance become automated, and the ULIP and the National Logistics Marine platform, working hand in hand with API-driven exchange protocols, which are standardized and could be used by other stakeholders, would make the entire exercise worthwhile for all of us. I would again like to thank all my industry partners, all my colleagues from the ministry, and the Honorable Minister for having spared the time to be present here. With our collective efforts and wisdom, we should be able to make the Maritime India Vision 2030 a reality, and the other initiatives that we have been discussing and which form part of our action plan. I thank you all once again, and I wish the conclave success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Ranjan, for that address. We now have the privilege of hearing a leader who was actually had a leadership value right from the beginning, being the president of the Assam's largest and oldest students' union, being the first skills minister in the government of India in 2014, although for a very short period of time, where I had the opportunity to interact very closely with him. And he became the first BJP Chief Minister of Assam, again through his leadership and grassroots work in the state. It is my privilege and honor to welcome Shri Sarbananda Sonowal, Honorable Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways and Ayush, Government of India, to deliver the inaugural address. Minister, we look forward to your address.
Good morning to all the honorable participants in this very important conclave. Respected Dilip Sinoyji, respected Dr. Sanjeev Ranjanji, respected Captain Sarmaji, respected Mr. Sumarji, and respected Mr. Dhulba Katakji, and also the respected speaker on the dais, Mr. Krishna B. Katak ji, Rajiv Agarwal ji, Arun Maheshwari ji, Anil Dabli ji, and all the respected chairmen of major ports of India. Today, I'm really delighted to take part in this particular conclave, which is mainly to concern about the development of ports for the future. As we all know, India is on the cusp of major maritime revolution and require a vibrant and strong maritime industry for both economic and strategic region. Consistent efforts have been put towards development of a robust and sustainable infrastructure for facilitating transformation of the sector into an engine of growth for India. Under the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of making India a leading blue economy of the world, the government is investing in waterways in a way that was never seen before. I'm aware of the goals we set to achieve in the Maritime India Vision 2030, which will help to accelerate the growth of the sector, and we aspire to bring the Indian maritime industry at par with the top global benchmark in the next 10 years. In order to achieve the objective of Atmanirbhar Bharat, government has approved a scheme to provide rupees 1,624 crores over 5 years as subsidy to Indian shipping companies in global tenders floated by ministries and CPSCs for import of government cargo. This will result in a larger and healthy Indian fleet, which will enable greater training and employment opportunity for Indian seafarers, besides enhancing Indian companies' share in global shipping. Under the Sagarmala initiative, which aims to reduce logistic cost for both domestic and EXIM cargo with minimal infrastructure investment, I am pleased to share currently there are 802 projects worth investment of rupees 5.52 lakhs crore for implementation under the Sagarmala program by 2035, out of which 172 projects worth rupees 88.235 crores have been completed, and 235 projects worth rupees 2.16 lakhs crore are under implementation. Further, 395 projects worth rupees 2.48 lakhs crores are under various stages of development. The recently passed Inland Vessel Act 2021 will usher a new era in the inland water transport sector and shall also fulfill the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi to make their legislative framework user-friendly and promote ease of doing business. The Government of India is also focusing on the domestic shipbuilding and ship repair market to encourage domestic shipbuilding. The shipbuilding financial assistance policy for Indian shipyards has been approved. The ministry has achieved significant progress through port-led development, policy initiative, provisions of multi-modal services for logistic movement through inland waterways and ease of doing business, improving shipbuilding and recycling technique, and measures to facilitate flagging of vessels in India. I wish to take forward all the good works of the previous incumbent as well as put serious efforts with my new team to ensure that all the set milestones of the projects are achieved without any delays. I also look forward to working closely with both the public and private sector stakeholders and exchange synergies with a focused agenda to boost the performance and productivity of the Indian maritime sector and pave the way forward for an even better future. I am confident that the initiative will add impetus to our concerted efforts towards strengthening our position in building a robust maritime sector in New India at the rate 75. With these few words, I again extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the participants, particularly FICCI, for this very meaningful initiative. And we are to work hand in hand because our dynamic Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has set the goal for all of us to achieve. Now, if we all work with sincerity, dedication, and put our best possible hard work with better planning and effort, we are confident that under the dynamic leadership of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, we could achieve the goal and make India Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. On behalf of all the industry, on behalf of FICCI, I assure you that we will work under your leadership to meet and reach the vision set by Honorable Prime Minister for not only the port sector, but for the country as a whole and make it Atmanirbhar Bharat. May I now invite Mr. Dhruv K. Kotak, Managing Director, JM Bakshi, to conclude this session.
I think Honorable Minister Saab, Shri Sonowal ji, Shri Dr. Ranjan ji, Shri Bandopadhyay Saab, all the officials from the ministry, all the chairmen from the various ports, and all my colleagues from the industry. Thank you so much for making this happen. A big thanks to our dynamic minister, Shri Sonowal ji, for taking out time from his busy schedule, especially with his interaction at the moment at Assam, with all the stakeholders in Assam, the stakeholder conclave in Assam, for making time and briefing us and giving us such a bold vision and a strong direction to achieve not only the maritime vision, also the monetization pipeline that has been set for all of us. And we will, sir, all of us together, along with the government, we will work shoulder to shoulder to make this vision into a reality. We are also excited to try and play a bigger role as industry in the development of the inland waterways and bring prosperity to regions within India which are connected through the waterways, and under your direction and leadership to see a transformation in that space as well. Sir, with the utmost of thanks to FICCI for arranging this phenomenal conclave and bringing all industry participants together to try and make the maritime vision of India a success within the timelines that have been set by yourself and the Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you. And then may I now hand it over to Nija, please. Nija, you're mute. Nija, you're mute.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, Secretary, sir, and the members from the industry. We will, after this, immediately move on to about 10:15, the session with port chairman. We have major ports discussing with the industry about the impact and how the development of the port sector in India is planned to grow. With this, we come to end of the inaugural session. Thank you everyone for joining. Looking forward to more meaningful interactions with the ministry, with the government, and with the industry going forward. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anil.